Today's daf is Masechta Menachos Daf Kuf Gimel. Be'ez Hashem, we will begin from the Gemara on Daf Kuf Beis Amid Beis. So, in the Gemara is commenting. The opening comment of the Gemara is on the Mishnah. Mishnah says that if someone says, "I'm going to bring a mincha in a machvas," machvas again is this pan. He says he's going to bake it in this pan. And he baked it in a marcheshes, or the opposite, or he didn't follow through. Then the Mishnah says, "What if you said I'm going to bring a machvas and you brought a marcheshes and you brought a machvas, you have to redo it because you weren't yotzei your mitzvah. But if you promised that this flour will be baked in a machvas and you brought it a marcheshes, or the opposite, then it's possible. Then the mincha itself is possible. In the first case, the mincha is kosher, but you have to didn't keep your promise. The next case of the Mishnah is a similar case, but it's nothing. It's when a person promises to bring two isarins, two isarins of flour, and he's going to put them all into one vessel. And he brings it in two kalim and brought it in one kalim. So then, Masha Hevi, you weren't yotze, whatever you brought is good, it's kosher, but you need to follow through and repeat to keep your neder. But if you promise to say, you took the flour and said, this I'm going to bring in one vessel, and you brought it in two kalim. So therefore, by bringing it in two kalim, there was taking two kamitzas instead of one kamitza. Or the opposite, you say you can bring it in two kalim and you brought it in one kalim, and you were talking to the flour, it's possible. So Gemara comments like this: Utzricha. Why do we need both cases in the Mishnah to say it's possible or not? So he says like this: or you yotzi yaned or not. Utzricha. The yashmina b'ha kamais. If we just say the first case where you switch the kalim. Instead of using a machvas, you use the marchashes. That's why you weren't yotzi a neder, because you switched out the kalim. But in the second case, the idi machvas, you brought it in a machvas. You baked it in a machvas, you baked it in a marchashes, so you followed through on the way it was baked. But the problem is that you didn't keep your neder, so to speak, because you brought it in to the kohen with two vessels instead of one vessel. So I might think, but that's not such a big fupa, and yedei nidra nama yotze, you were yotze your neder, you kept your promise. So therefore, the Mishnah tells in that case you didn't keep your promise. Yashminu hach, if the Mishnah would only tell you that case, the reason why you didn't keep your neder in the second case, mishum de kol polaglahu, because you split it into two kalim. You're supposed to bring it to the kohen in one vessel. You brought it into kalim. Aval hasam delay polagbeit. Over there, you didn't split up the kalim that you brought it to the base to the kohen. It's just the way you baked it. You didn't follow through on what you said you were going to do. You bake it in the same keli that you're supposed to bake it in the machvas or machsheshes. I might think not. That's why the Mishnah had to say. Now, the Mishnah Tanur Rabbanan, the Brisa says like the Mishnah. You didn't keep your neder, and you have to read. So the carbon is kosher, the mincha is kosher, but you have to repeat to be yotze your neder. Rab Shimon says, "Af yedei nidroi nama yotze, you were yotze your neder." He argues in the whole Mishnah, because you can't say, according to Rab Shimon, by you saying, I'm going to bake this I'm going to promise to bring a machves or machashes, that's not a neder. That's not something that means anything. A neder is the mincha, and you could decide later on what you want to use it, a machves or machashes, etc., etc. But as being part of your neder, that doesn't obligate you. As the Rashi explains, the kava kvias mono, if you're just setting aside what type of keli you're going to use or how many kelim, lav klumhu, that doesn't mean anything, according to Rav Shimon. Now, if you said zu lahavi b'machvas, you promised this flour that I'm going to bring in a machvas, the Tanakama has held The Tanakama held that if you don't follow through on that, then the mincha is possible because you promised this flour I'm going to put into a machvas. Says the Gemara of Atanya, we learned in a brisa, like kitchen klisharis, that klisharis didn't make it into a holy vessel. And therefore, just because you put it into a machvas and baked it that way, it shouldn't be possible. It's not a holy thing until maybe the kohen until you put it into another vessel. Amar Abaya like kitchen likarav of kitchen liposel. The klisharis in the oven is not a holy vessel that you can use to be makrav on the mizbeach, but it's enough of a holy vessel to make it become possible. And therefore, if you said that you're going to use the flour in a machvas and you put it in a marcheshes, the marcheshes has enough power into it to make it holy and invalidate that carbon. Abaya said another further idea. Loishanu, we didn't see this idea that if you said, I'm going to bring this in a machvas, and you brought it in a marcheshes, it's possible. Ella shekavam b'shas neder. It's only when it was flour in front of you, and you said, oh, I'm going to bring this as a mincha, as a machvas mincha. Aval b'shas hafrasha loy. But when, let's say you said, harei alai mincha, and then when you decide to put it into the oven, then you say, I'm going to put it into a machvas. That's not a neder, because that's not a neder. That's not part of the neder. The neder was when you talked about the flour. But if you add a certain detail right before you're baking, that's not part of your neder. Kasher nedarta, v'loy kasher frashta. The neder is when you made the neder. Harei alai mincha. That's when you're supposed to say, I'm going to use a machvas. And if you didn't say that, you can't add it later on. You can't add it kasher hifrashta. You can't say that when you separate it out, when you start working with it, that's not when you can add to the neder and add detail to the neder. It's menami Omer Rabbi Acha Bar Chanina Omer Rabbi Asi Omer Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said the same idea. Loishanu, we didn't say that the carbon is invalid, the mincha is invalid. Elashakavam b'shas neder. It's because when you said harei alai mincha, you promised at that time to say to use a machvas. Aval b'shas hafrasha. But if you said in the shas neder harei alai mincha, and then when you said, oh, when you're about to bake it, you said, oh, this is going to be, I'm going to put it into a machvas. Loy, that's not a problem. Kasha nedart, that's not your promise. Kasha nedart of loy kasha frashta. The neder is when you made the promise, not when you're separating it out. New Mishnah. Mishnah says, if someone says, harei alai mincha min hasa'ir, he says, I'm going to bring a mincha from barley. Now, barley is a mincha, true, but only a soita brings a barley, or the carbon oimer was a barley. A general donation mincha can only be from wheat. So here he says, I'm bringing a mincha from barley. So the answer is yavi min achita. He brings it from wheat. Why does he bring it from wheat? He just said, I'm going to bring a barley mincha, so the whole statement should be invalid, because we're going to learn that the way Chizki explains our Mishnah, that the Mishnah goes with the opinion of Beis Shammai. And Beis Shammai says that when someone says a two-part statement, you just take the first part seriously, and you ignore the second part. So when you say harei alai mincha, that already obligated him to bring one from barley. Kamach, if he says, I'm going to bring a mincha of flour, but not fine flour, and we know that a mincha has to be from soilis, from the finest flour. Yavi soilis he has to bring from fine flour. If he promised the mincha b'loy shem and b'loy levina, without oil or without frankincense, so there's no such a mincha like that. Yavi shem and levina, he has to bring shem and levina. If he promised the mincha chatzi isarin, a half a isarin, there's no such a mincha like that. So if he's yavi isarin shalom, he has to bring a complete isarin. If he promised the mincha isarin umechza, one isarin and a half, there's no such a thing. Yavi shnaim, he has to bring 2 esronims. Reb Shimon paita. Reb Shimon says you're potter. If the guy says harei alai mincha midas oirim, or he says harei alai mincha kemach, or then potter shaloi snadev kederech hamis nadvim. That's not the way you're supposed to make a neder. He didn't do it correctly. We're going to see what the opinion of Reb Shimon is. Says the Gemara, and the Gemara explains the first part of the Mishnah. Mishnah said, if a person said, Arei alai mincha, min ha'se'orim, from barley, yavi min achitim, he should bring the mincha from achitim. Amai, neder, upischa imayhu. He has a neder, but right away he seems to regret his neder by saying that he wants to bring the mincha from barley, and everybody knows that a mincha cannot be brought from barley. So maybe he's like saying, oh, I regret what I said. The Mishnah goes according to Beis Shammai. The Amri, he says, to voice Lashon Rishon, we always take the first words that come out of your mouth seriously, and we don't allow you to retract it like that. The Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, if a person says, I'm making a nazir, not from grapes, but from dried figs. So, is you're a nazir. Beis Shammai, I'm a nazir, you're a nazir. You can't eat grapes, because when you said Hareini Nazir, I'm a Nazir, that's enough to answer you from grapes, and we ignore what you said from figs. Beis Hillel says, ain't a Nazir, you're not a Nazir. So that's the explanation that Chizkiah had towards our Mishnah, that our Mishnah is according to Beis Shammai, who holds this concept, voice, lashon, rishon. You always look at his first words. Rabbi Yochanan says, I feel the tema Beis Hillel. You could say our Mishnah goes according to Beis Hillel, and you look at the whole thing. But ba'omer, it's talking about a person who said, "Ilu hayedea she'eino kach lo yisem kach elakach." The guy said after he said "Harei olai mincha min esayrim," somebody explained to him and says, "There's no such a mincha from Sairim." Oh, he said, if I would have known that, I would have probably made a neder from chitim, but he didn't make the neder from chitim. He only made it from Sairim. So since it's an honest mistake, so we still say that the neder is still an obligation for him. It's a valid neder. That's how Rabbi Yochanan explained the Mishnah, because it's an honest mistake. You could make a mistake and say that since I see that minchas are brought, some minchas are brought from barley, so it's an honest mistake. And an honest mistake, he could explain himself and say, no, I really meant to make an neder, but I just made an honest mistake. I thought you could donate a mincha from Sa'ira, which comes out that we'll see in a moment, that if a person could not have made such a mistake, if it says, I'm bringing a mincha from cholent beans, so there's no such a thing of a mincha from beans, so he couldn't have made that mistake. So according to this, according to Rabbi Yochanan, then it would not be obligation that you'd have to bring a mincha. Amar Chizkiah. Now Chizkiah seems to turn around his opinion. Amar Chizkiah said, Lo yisharu Amar mincha min ha'sa'irim. It's only because you said mincha min ha'sa'irim. Aval Amar mincha min ha'adashem. But if you said a mincha from adashem, from beans, loy, then it's not, you're not obligated to bring a mincha. If you said harei alai mincha min adashem, it's not obligation to bring a mincha. So, and that's how Chizkiah explains our Mishnah. So the Gemara says, let us see. Chizkiah command Amar Shmaitza. Who did Chizkiah say our Mishnah goes like? Beis Shammai, like Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai mishum tfais lashon rishon hu. Beis Shammai says you always look at the first statement. So if a person said Harei alai mincha, if he said Harei alai mincha, and then he said I want to bring it from adashim, it doesn't matter. Right when he said Harei alai mincha, he obligated himself to bring a proper mincha from wheat. Mali min asarim, mali min adashim. What's the difference if he added the word barley or he added the word beans? Answers the Gemara, Hadabei. So Hadabei Chizkiah retracted his statement, and he held that, like Rabbi Yochanan explained our Mishnah, he held, like Rabbi Yochanan explained that Mishnah, that really you don't say Tvois Lashon Rishon, you can say a Tvois Lashon Achron. But here, our Mishnah is talking about a guy who said, oh, I made a mistake. If I make a mistake, it has to be something that he could excuse himself how he made such a mistake. And with adashim, with beans, he can never excuse himself how he made such a mistake, and therefore he doesn't have the obligation of a neder on him. Says the Gemara, my Tama Hadabei. Why did Chizkiah retract? It seems that that our Mishnah, would be able to go according to Beis Shammai. Rava said, Rav Chizkiah had a question on the Mishnah. My ear yedetani amincha nasarim listen min hadashim. If our Mishnah was going according to Beishamai, that you say twice lashon rishon, so why did our Mishnah say that he made a mistake with barley? The Mishnah should say a bigger chiddush that he made a mistake in adashim, and yet he's still obligated to bring a mincha. So since the Mishnah did not use the example of beans, it must be our Mishnah does not hold like Rabbi Shammai. Ella, the reason of our Mishnah is Shmami no Mishum de Tohu, because you're making a mistake. That with barley you can correct that mistake and explain away your mistake, and with beans loito you can't explain it away. So basically, Chizkiah learned like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Afilu min hadashim." Now, Rabbi Yochanan says something shocking, that even if you made the mincha harei elu min hadashim, you still obligate to bring a carbon mincha. So Gemara says, "Wait a second. Michte Rabbi Yochanan kaman amar l'shmaitza." Who does Rabbi Yochanan hold that the Mishnah was? Who's the opinion of the Mishnah? Beis Hillel, according to Beis Hillel. Well, Beis Hillel, if you explain the Mishnah according to Beis Hillel, mishum de tohu, you have to explain away in a valid way why you can make such a mistake. B'sayrin to, person makes a mistake with barley, because some minchas are brought in barley, badashim leito, with beans, you couldn't not have made such a mistake. So therefore, why would Rabbi Yochanan say that even if you said harei mincha min hadashim, the Mishnah would hold you're obligated to bring a mincha? The way Rabbi Yochanan explained the Mishnah, that would not be true. If you said harei malai mincha min hadashim, you're not obligated to bring a mincha. So how do we explain Rabbi Yochanan? So the Gemara says the Dvara of the Chizkiah Kama. He's saying according to the words of Chizkiah. In other words, here is a very interesting back and forth with Rabbi Yochanan and Chizkiah. Rabbi Yochanan says, Chizkiah, why did you retract and explain the Mishnah the way I explained the Mishnah? My Tama Haderbe, why did you have regrets and retract? We shouldn't like Tana min Adashim, because the Mishnah didn't say min Adashim. And if the Mishnah went like Beis Shammai, the Mishnah should say Harei alai mincha min hadashim, and you're still obligated to bring a mincha because twice lashon rishon. Dilma, you could still say that our Mishnah goes according to Beis Shammai. Loi biboy comment, and the Mishnah is like you don't have to explain it. Loi biboy min hadashim. If you say min hadashim, you always say twice lashon rishon. The iklamim hadahu, you're trying to retract. The hadahu the hadabe, he's trying to retract. He says Harei alai mincha. Oh, let me take it back. So I'm going to say min hadashim with twice lashon rishon. We grab you by the first words that come out of your mouth, and you say Harei alai mincha, you're obligated to bring a mincha. Ella afilu min ha'sa'orin name iklamei mitahu degatoi. Even if you said Harei alai mincha min ha'sa'orin, which I could have said, explained it in a way that you really want that you're making a mistake, and therefore, in here, you should be totally potter, because he could always say, if I would have known that I have to bring up wheat, I would never have made that nether in the first place. So I would think, according to Beis Shammai, you would not say he's obligated to bring a mincha. Even in that case, twice lashon rishon, we say once you say harei alai mincha, you're on the hook, and you have to bring a mincha. So basically, what Rabbi Yochanan went on to say, for this reason alone, that's not enough of a valid to switch sides and not say that the Mishnah goes according to Beis Shammai. Now we go Amid Beis. Amar Zeiri. Zeiri said, Loishanu. We didn't say, like according to Chizkiah, that we say Sfois Loshen Rishon, right? The guy said Harei alai mincha min ha'sa'orim. So we say we keep you on the hook. Twice means we keep you on the hook because of what you first said. But you have to have said the word mincha. Mincha. Mincha loy. If you just said Harei alai min ha'sa'orim, didn't say the word mincha, so there is no lashon rishon. There's no first language, and therefore you're not obligated. Also, Rav Nachman v'kamal el hashmaitzah, Esvei Rav Nachman. Rava asked a question to Rav Nachman. If you have to say the word mincha, how come the Mishnah says when you said kemach, yavi sa'ilis, lavdar loy ama mincha? Isn't the Mishnah talking about a situation where a guy said, Harei like kemach, and yet you still have to bring sa'ilis? Answers Gemara loy. Our Mishnah is talking about the ama mincha. He said mincha. And the Mishnah wrote it in shorthand and sort of like didn't have to say, you said Harei like mincha min kemach. Same idea. Beloy shema levoina, yavi shema levoina. I love the loy ama mincha. You didn't say the word mincha. Loy, the ama mincha, you said the word mincha. Chatzi isarai, yavi isaran shala. My love the loy ama mincha, loy the ama mincha. So in all the cases of the Mishnah, and the way Ziri explained, and that where a person said something very strange, you always say tvois loshen rishon. You keep him on the hook for the first language that he said. It's only in a situation where he actually used a valid first language. He said Harei alai mincha, and then he said the wrong things. He said I'm going to bring it soilus or kemach, or he said I'm going to bring it kemach, or he said I'm going to bring it without shem and lavoino, or he said I'm going to bring it barley, whatever. Now, or he brought the wrong size. If that's the way, so you say twice lashon rishon, and he said arei alai mincha. So the Mishnah said, Ema Sefer, let's understand the end of the Mishnah. Isarin and a mech. So he said, I'm going to bring Isarin and a mechza. Isarin and a half. Yavi Shnayim, he should bring 2. Question is, that makes no sense. Kevin the Amma Harei alai mincha. As soon as he said Harei alai mincha, Yichayev le be Isarin. He's chayev 1 Isarin. Okay. Harei alai mincha be Isarin, that's makes sense. He's chayev 1 Isarin. Then he didn't add anything because chatzi isaron is nothing. So twice lashon rishon, he should only be obligated to bring 1 isaron. Why does the Mishnah say you bring 2 isarons? Answers the Gemara like Tzricha. Mishnah is talking about. He said it in reverse order. Damarai like mincha chatzi isaron v'isaron. So now, why does he have to bring 2? Kivin dama mincha. Since he said the word mincha chayiv like isaron, he's chayiv isaron number 1. He's not obligated in anything. Then he has to bring another Isara. So that's why in the last case of the Mishnah, you're obligated to bring 2 Isaras. If that's the case, Reb Shimon says you're totally potter when you say Chatzi Isaran v'Isarain. You're totally potter for bringing anything. Amai. Why? You made a normal neder. Harei elech mincha, chatzi isaron v'yisaron. Amar Rava, B'shem Mishitas Rabbi Yosi, Amar Da'amar B'gmar Dvarav, Odom Nitvas, Af B'dimai. You take the full package, and the full package is Harei elai mincha, 1.5 isarons. So when you take it, look at it as a complete sentence, it's a nonsense sentence. It's basically saying, I don't want to bring a mincha, because there's no such a thing of 1.5 isarons. So Reb Shimon goes with the opinion of Rabbi Yosi that you look at the entire words that a person says, and therefore only if the entire sentence makes sense, we keep him on the hook, and if not, then he has no neder in place. New Mishnah, Misnadev Odom. Let's say you can make a neder on 5 isarons or 10 isarons. What's the maximum limit? Misnadev of a mincha shall shishim isaron. Maybe the maximum amount of mincha is 60 isarins, and you bring it in 1 keli, and you use 1 loig of shaman, right, for all 60 isarins. So that's the amount of flour. But if you said I want to bring 61 isarins of flour, maybe shishim b'kli echad v'echad b'kli echad. You bring 60 in 1 vessel and 1 in another vessel. Now, why? Shekain, the Tanakama says, Hatzibur maybe beyond the Rishon Shechad, Shecholis B'Shabbos, Shishim Ve'echad. The maximum that the Tzibur would bring as a mincha would be 61. And therefore, when a person said, I'm going to bring 61, he can't be equal to the Tzibur. So, Dayel Yachashu Pachos Min Tzibur Echad. So it's enough that if when an individual brings a mincha, he has to bring 1 less than the regular tzibur, and therefore the maximum we allow an individual to bring is 60, not 61. Why? Because the tzibur, the Tanakhama said, on the first day of Sukkot, they were bringing 61 isarins of mincha, of flour. How? Because in the first day of Sukkot, they brought first of all 13 cows. Now, for every cow, you bring 3 isaring. So they brought 3 times 13 is 39. Then they brought uh, 14 sheep. For every sheep, you bring a 1 isaring. So that's 39 plus 14 is 53. Then they brought also 2 rams on Sukkot, the first day of Sukkot. Each ram gets 2 isarings. So that's 57. You add another, 2 times 2, 4, so it's 57. And then you had the 2 tmidim. Each one was a sheep, so you add another 2 more. That's 59. And if it was Shabbos, the first day of Sukkot, then you bring another 2 isarim, so it's 61. So the Gemara says, Rab Shimon didn't like the reason of the Tanakama. Rab Shimon says, V'haloi elul parim, ve'elul kvasim, ve'enin lam zeh. There are different types of minchas. The one of parim has a different oil consistency than the sheep's and the rams, and so that you can't mix them together. So the tzibur never brought 61 pounds of 61 isarim in one keli. And this guy is saying, I want to bring 61. So why can't he bring 61? So Reb Shimon did not like the reason of the Tanakama. Ella, he says a new reason. If you have one log of shaman, it could be mixed in 60 nicely. But once it's 61, then you don't even feel the oil anymore. So the Chachamim answered that Shishin Ivlalim, Shishin Echad, Ein Ivlalim. You can't, with 60 Isarins, the oil does get mixed up, but once you add another Isarin, the oil is you're not going to feel the oil anymore. So so Reb Shimon answered them, that's the way it is. Kol midas Chachamim came. That's the way the Chachamim made up the measurements. In a mikvah of 40 saw, an average person could go to the mikvah. If it's missing a little bit, even for a small man who could surround himself with water in less than 40 saw, you can't be taival. Chachamim give a shear, that's the shear. So the shear is that oil will be able to be mixed, and you'll be able to taste the oil if it's 60. Once it's 61, you won't be able to feel the oil there. And same thing in kashrus also. Once something is 61 versus if it's in a 1 to 61 ratio, then it becomes bottom. The Gemara just elaborates on the story in the Mishnah. Shol Sheila Malam Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi. They asked Shol Sheila Lamala Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi. They asked a question above Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi. They asked the question to everybody. And Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi was one of the members that they asked this question to. Menayim if you say, I'm going to bring 61, you don't bring it in one vessel. Maybe Shishin B'Kli Echad, Ve'echad B'Kli Echad. You bring 60 in one vessel and one in another vessel. How do you know that? So Pasach Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi, Yehuda opened up, because he's the opening speaker. He was hired by the government to be the opening speaker. So even though they asked the question above Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi, but he gets the chance to speak first. And he spoke like the Tanakama. But Amar, the reason why it's that way, Shekhem Ratzin B'Tzibur, V'vim B'Yontav Rishon Shel Chag, Shecholias B'Shabbat Shishvechet, Daya Le'echach Yipchois Min HaTzibur Echad. Since the Tzibur brings 61, so the Tzibur, so a Yachid that makes a donation, he cannot bring 61. It's always 60. Amalei Rab Shimon Balei Elu Param Be'elim Be'elu Kvasim Elu Belassim Ava Be'elu Belassim Raka Elu Belassim Shacharis Be'elu Belassim Ben Abayim Be'enim V'Larim Zeb Al Zeb. Basically, Rab Shimon says, but that first day of Sukkot, you're not bringing it all 61 in one keli. It's separated. Some are mixed. Some have mixed with a lot of oil. Some not so much oil. Some are mixed in the morning. Some are mixed in the afternoon, and they're not mixed up. So Rab Shimon did not like Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi's reasoning. So they told Rab Shimon, you tell us what your reason is. Amar lehem, harei oimer v'chol mincha b'lu b'shemem b'chareva. Kva Amar Torah, the Torah says, have a mincha sheyichoyla lihibala. We need the mincha that when you add the oil, you can feel the oil in the mincha. Amalei, so they ask, so what do you mean? Only with 60 isarings you can feel the oil, and when it's 61, you can't feel the oil in the mixture? Amar lehei, so Reb Shimon said that's precisely right. Right. Kol midas chachamim kenu. If a mikvah has the shear, if it's missing just a drop, then it's pasala mikvah. If the food is the size of an egg, it's receptible to receive tumah. If it's missing just a sesame seed off the size of an egg, it cannot be receptible for tumah. If it's 3 tvachim by 3 tvachim, it could become tameh if a zav sits on it. If it's just missing one thread, so the Chachamim were very precise in their measurements, and you can't argue with that. So with 60, it's called the ratio 1 to 60, the oil will get mixed up. If it's 1 to 61, then the oil will not get mixed up well, and therefore it's not a kosher mincha. You have to separate it. Says the Gemara of let's say you couldn't at all taste the oil. You don't even have to put oil in the first place. Well, you don't have to mix the oil around. If you didn't mix the oil in the mincha, it's still kosher. Rab Shimon, Rab says, "Kol haroy lebila ein bila ma'akeves boy." You have to be able to potentially mix the oil around. The whole she'ein haroy lebila, but if it's not potentially that could be mixed into this mixture because you have too much flour, bila ma'akeves boy, then the oil it would uphold the kashrus of the mincha, and therefore will remain over here. Two reasons brought in the Mishnah why. If you make a donation of 61 isarines, you have to divide it up into 2 kalim, one of 60, one of 1. Okay, so Be'ez Hashem, we just finished Masechta Menachos Daf Yomi Gimel Shabbos.